Through a Therapist's Eyes. I am your host. This is YouTube Live, which we do on Thursdays before the show starts. You find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the whatnot. This is what? My brother's birthday. Shout out to you, Uncle Ronnie. The kids love you. We love you. Happy birthday. He is, how old? I won't say that. That's not what you're supposed to do when you get older, right? He's maturer today. Well, I can't say that either. He's my brother.
He ain't heavy. He ain't heavy. He's my brother.
Well, he is
He's another year older.
We're striking out here. I love you, brother. Happy birthday.
Well, I was singing an old song, so that was.
He is heavy though. Anyway, August the 8th. I shouldn't say that. That was so mean. Can we cut this and start over? No. Neil says no. We have Miss Victoria Pendergrass hanging out with us as well.
Hi, guys.
Did I say John Pope? I didn't.
No, but I'm glad to be here.
Yes. All right. Listen, we're going to be talking about ambition today. I think it's going to be a cool topic, cool conversation that, is something that is a word that everybody has heard of and knows. Everybody usually wants it, but I don't think we have a whole lot of psychology understanding of it in the general public. Of course, we do in our field, but, I also pulled this out. Look. YouTube Live subscribers, this is the book.
Green Eyes.
Yay!
Green-eyed lady. Yeah.
Coming out December the 17th for those on Amazon. All right, we're probably about ready. You about ready to hit it, Neil? All right,
let's jump into it.
Here we go. Hello, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes on August the 8th. I am your host, Chris Gazdick, and I would like the honor of giving a shout-out today to my brother on his birthday. We covered this on the YouTube part, but it got a little weird, so I'm not going to say any of the weird stuff.
We'll just stop right there.
Let's just stop right there.
Stop right there.
Okay.
It's nice to have a brother.
It is really nice to have a brother. I love him terribly. As a matter of fact, it really is because, when your parents die, I've always long believed and known that your siblings will have been the only persons to have known you your entire life, if you think about that. Mm-hmm. So I value very much the relationship with my brother. Love you, brother. Happy birthday, August the 8th. We're going to be talking about ambition today, and we have Mr. John Pope hanging out with us.
It's good to be here.
Did you get through the rain?
Yes, we did.
It was brutal today,
it was horrible.
We have Debbie parked over us.
We don't like Debbie at the current moment.
Yeah, Debbie is...
No offense to all those people out there that are actually named Debbie.
Debbie Downpour.
The poor Debbies of the world. That's rough. And then we have Victoria Pendergrass hanging out with us. So this is Through a Therapist's Eyes, where you get insights from a panel of therapists in your home or your car or wherever you might be, but not delivery of therapy services in any way. The three questions that we have about ambition, how do we get it, are what is ambition? Shocking that we would have a definition question, right? Can you have too much? We'll leave it as a cliffhanger. And then how do we cultivate, actually create, or get
we're going to come out saying there's positive aspect to ambition.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Ambition rocks. I want everyone to have a lot of it. But not too much, maybe. All right.
We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. Yes. The book is out. I have a picture that I put up for the YouTube people. Very excited about it. December the 17th, the volume 2 of Through a Therapist's Eyes on Marriage. That's exciting.
Good job. Snaps all around.
John, what do these people need to do when they're trying to support the show?
Give us 5 stars, because if you get 5 stars and you truly enjoy this, it'll rise to the top like cream. And so we'll be able to have more exposure.
You have a beautiful way of putting these things. Mm-hmm. That was really impressive. Victoria, you're losing it. Yeah. You good?
Yeah.
It was delightful. All right, contact at throughatherapisteyes.com is where you can email us questions and thoughts, and we sometimes talk about, like the last week on the air, some of those. And finally, this is the human emotional experience, which we endeavor to figure out together. Welcome, Sandy Falls. We have a new YouTube
Yay, welcome, Sandy.
Hey, Sandy.
And I learned from Neil, you don't have your mic, do you, Neil? Let me get this right. We don't want to leave anybody out when we're kind of decided we want to greet YouTube subscribers, but if they don't have your settings put towards public, then it doesn't notify us when you sign up. Am I saying that right? He's shaking his head. So if you have your settings put towards public on your YouTube page or whatever that is, how you sign in, then we will see you and we will say hello. So that's what.
Hello.
Hello, Sandy. All right. Did I get everything? Did I do everything? Did I move it along?
Let's get her going.
Get her going?
Let's get her going.
Who's her?
She's in a hurry.
It seems like she wants to go hang out. Well, she hadn't seen her kid today.
I haven't seen my kid all day.
She's wanting to see her little munchkin roll around and chew things and destroy things.
And he goes to bed at 8. So.
Aww.
So let's get on.
All right,
guys.
let's hurry up. Make the time go faster for Victoria.
Okay, everybody talk in 2-point speed.
Oh boy, we're not going to do that. That would be you do that normally. Though.
We need incapable of that.
John is incapable of that. What do y'all think about the topic? Ambition. How do we get it? Do you think about ambitions or developing ambition in therapy very much? It's a unique topic.
Yes, it is.
I'm trying to think.
I've had a client that is on the spectrum, and he does not have ambition.
Oh, really?
None.
Being on the spectrum?
But and it's not just because he's on the spectrum, but I think it's his particular the way he's built. He has absolutely no ambition.
Operationally, you mean?
Operationally, what do you want to do? I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he did. Do you have any hopes? I don't know. And it's not just depression or anything in terms of depression or anxiety or anything.
Well, there's an interesting question off the bat. Is it possible to have no ambition?
Well, I think he comes as close
as you can, but I would argue actually that that's impossible.
I think he does because he knows how to drive. He knows he can shop, but he has no ability or volition to continue and say, I want to go to college. I want to go and do this. And yet,
so it's an interesting comment, though. This person or that person seems to have no real ambition. I hear that comment, and I didn't have it a part of my show prep. But the question is really, is that question a myth?
What?
Is that statement a myth that this person or that person just has no ambition?
I think, and I don't know if we necessarily are going to talk about this later on, but I think it also depends on if we're including ambition as like motivation. And if we're saying that that's the same thing or not.
There are two different words, so they're not. I didn't break them down. I mean, to me, the definition we have here, desire and determination to achieve success. A stronger definition, I think, is a strong desire to do or to achieve something, typically requiring determination and hard work. So
you might have ambition, but you might not have the motivation
to do the ambition.
To reach the ambition that you want to reach. Okay, gotcha.
Very, very correct.
So then I think the issue that I see in my office more often is people have the ambition, but they're lacking the motivation to accomplish said ambition. And so therefore that's sometimes why they're in my chair. Not chair, I have a sofa.
What connected? We have a chair too.
Yeah.
What connected, John?
Well, I'm hearing that. I agree with you. The person I'm thinking about on the spectrum is, and I would say he would be like a level 2 autism spectrum.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's progressed in it a little bit.
Yeah. So he's even though he had a very normal intelligence, there was no concept of motivation for him or ambition. He had enough to be able to learn how to drive, but he could, for example, if he wasn't reminded to go shopping or to buy food for himself, he wouldn't do it. He would not. He needed someone to supervise him, to, in a sense, tell him what to do.
It's interesting, John, right? Because on the one hand, I totally am following you. I just hadn't thought about exploring this question on the show, but I think it's a really good question to really kick off with, because we want to create ambition. But the idea of, is it possible to have no ambition? I think I'm going to argue no. I think we're all kind of agreeing. But what's interesting is that motivation, as you said, Victoria, can take a hit, and the ambitions that we have can take a hit in the context of mental health. But here's another. Okay,
He would
go
be
ahead.
happy just being there. That's what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and okay, so he's progressed a little further to have a lot of self-stimulation in a relationship with himself and avoiding other contacts and things. But what's interesting, I find, with Asperger's people or higher functioning autistic people, maybe autistic 1, you say he's on a higher level of 2 with that they have a lot of ambitions to have sex, to have a marriage, to have a relationship, to have maybe even kids and whatever. I'm saying they can.
They can.
But you can get to a place where the Asperger's or autism might take that away, or depression might take that away, or whatever. But that they still, I mean, that's sometimes what can be so tormenting, is to have that ambition.
Well,
and then
I found it very frustrating because I'm someone who, even despite my advanced age, is I'm doing that to myself, but is to want to motivate people. And
Right.
To say, let's live to the fullest of your potential.
Absolutely.
But he didn't want it.
You really didn't want it.
Didn't really want it.
Interesting.
Well,
very nice person.
It's fascinating. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, so we definitely have things that take a hit in our system. We were talking about procrastination as well at one point, which I think I'm going to mention throughout our journey today here. But we tend to think of these things. This just occurred to me actually in a real moment. Do we tend to think about things like procrastination, motivation, ambition as characteristics that we either have or don't have, or are they the result of how we're taking care of ourselves or not?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Because I learned that, honestly, when I did the show on procrastination, that it's not really a characteristic that we diagnose and whatnot. I know it's actually literally on our symptoms lists with certain things, but that's more of a result of how you're feeling and how you're doing. So it's an interesting difference. Does that make sense?
It sure does.
And I wonder if ambition falls in the same way. I would see that it might.
Well, I think we're attuned in our Western culture too, in the U.S., is to kind of value people making progress or improving.
Hard work.
And we value motivation.
Well, we'll definitely talk about where it comes from for sure, and what all of that is. And your culture has a big piece to play in how you experience the world. So, for sure. Barbara says, "Happy birthday to my brother." I appreciate that, ma'am. So Ronnie's getting some shout outs. That's cool. His name's Ronnie, by the way. You okay, Victoria?
Yeah. Yeah, we're just chilling. My dad's name is actually Ron.
Oh, really?
It's his name, like Ronald.
Well, Ronald Glenn Gazdick. We all family calls him Ronnie. It's weird for me to
which
hear.
is hilarious. Sorry, but my dad hates being called Ronnie.
Being called Ronnie, yeah.
Hates it.
That's a diminutive.
And like some of his family, like from back in Virginia, like call him that still.
Yeah,
And
I can't call my brother Ron. It just doesn't feel natural to me. It's not right. It makes me feel weird when people call him Ron. I'm like, it's Ronnie. Like, what are you doing? Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So, what are the components of ambition? So we've got really a strong desire to do so or achieve something, typically requiring determination and hard work. And then we have the different components that I look at. What builds this? What creates this? And we already mentioned one.
I already mentioned one, which is motivation.
Closely tied together in how they operate.
Then you have like goal setting,
and
then you have persistence, vision.
Right.
I got a question. Since you're our ADHD expert,
Consultant, sure. Yeah.
Okay,
go for
consult
it.
with
She's
you.
the consultant.
Is that part of, with some of your clients, difficult for some of the clients to be able to aggregate or bring together their motivation because there's a sense of being distracted or not organized? And so part of this is the goal setting is
Right.
it difficult for some of your clients to,
You mean specifically with ADHD too?
with ADHD?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there's definitely some correlation between ADHD and like motivation, goal setting, all
So-
the things that vision.
So
like,
somebody could be, let's say, ambitious
right,
and ADHD
Right.
and not able to get
actually
it together.
get there.
Yeah.
Garner goal setting,
because
to
they
garner motivation.
Yeah, because it's difficult for them to set goals and keep to the goals. Like they might be able to set goals, but to be able to like stay on track with the goals.
Well, you're
can
right, and it also
be a
occurs to me,
difficult-
even like with your vision. You know, you have a vision that you look for. You
Yeah.
create a goal through that, but if you're having a vision there, and then you look over here, and then you look over there, you don't get clarity for wow, motivation, goal setting, or vision, and then you throw in persistence. You're struggling with a lot of the components.
Then you throw in like
really.
ADHD on top of all that.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It erodes
It's
all
like
of
a
those
cat
different facets.
following
Yeah, sometimes
a
one of
laser.
my clients mentioned it earlier today, but sometimes I feel like I'm like a racehorse and I need like blinders on the side of me so I can keep in a straight line
Yeah.
and that I won't get distracted by like
Seriously.
other
Yeah, it's-
like the crowd or like the the other horses or like the other stuff going on. 'Cause
I mean,
I'm,
it's
like-
funny, and John, I think you're right. Just like with the spectrum, and we could do the same thing, I guess. With depression or other facets where people are really struggling on a foundation level with things, though I believe almost universally, just with behavioralism or understanding human goals for Maslow's, we talked about all that. Like people have high ambitions for themselves, but struggle because things take away various components, like we just said with ADHD, with what you need to exercise ambition.
right.
It's
Sure.
kind of a bummer.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's an internal structure that
Yeah.
that a person is born with that may be less organized, and so that they're not able to more easily get organized in their thoughts, be able to do things.
Behavior.
But they still could have a very strong ambition.
Yeah, what's interesting is happening for me right now. I talk a lot about an overview of mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I call it the tale of two tapes.
Right.
And on the one side, you have the genetic, biological realities, exercise, nutrition. That drives a lot of how we feel. But then on the other side, you have the social and emotional realities, as we know, primary life experiences, primary life events, the daily stress and the grind. So I was actually thinking that this issue with ambition, massaging it, managing it, understanding it, is a lot on this side of the equation.
The social.
And emotional, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so far, our whole conversation has been on this side because your body's operating the way it's operating
Yeah.
with ADHD or
Mm-hmm.
autism, and it's eroding your ability to exercise ambition. So there's a big biological component here, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I would
think
think
so.
so. Yeah,
And I
'Cause
think
even
that's-
like
I'm-
sorry,
go ahead.
because even depression is like has a chemical compound to it,
100%.
and so like that then has a biological compound to it. So I mean, like the thing that comes to my brain is like postpartum depression, and like there's and like things after that. That's what came to my brain because I think of
Yeah.
like I had no ambition after I pushed a baby out of my body. I
Right.
literally could
It just
do
sucks it
not
out.
want to do anything.
Yeah.
No, my main accomplishment is to make it through each day alive. Like at this
Yeah.
point,
Absolutely.
but yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's a bio. I think again, how I think that it's nature and nurture, not nature versus nurture, and so like I think that's very much the same thing. Like I think it
I think
involves biological, but I also think yes, you're right. It does involve like social too.
Well, there's a lot of. I really previously thought that was a much higher percentage, but I'm just recalibrating that.
Well, I'm thinking too, where some people might be crushed by thinking, well, I should be more able to achieve my goals than I do, and so you
Right.
get a lot of the shoulds.
I think that's the big part of this first segment, honestly, that I didn't even plan, is the shoulds.
Yeah.
yeah,
John. And I think this is a bit of a warning that I want to make a bold statement and put it out to people in general, but then also us therapists specifically. I feel like we look at the motivation of somebody and we forget that they have a high level of ambition, likely for what it is that they want, like, and enjoy, but that's getting taken away from them, sadly, because of some of the landscape that we're working with. And then when we're successful in working with people and alleviating those pressures, won't their ambition rise to the surface and then fly with what it is that they want to do?
Like
That's
cream.
the hope, yeah.
Like
the time.
cream.
Yeah, and I mean, in therapy, we say, like, shooting on yourself.
Right? Explain that.
Like,
though, yeah.
okay, so in therapy, we have this term called shooting on yourself.
Well,
I think most people could
some
get
of
the
us, I
inference.
guess, put it that way.
Yeah. Well, we say shoulding on yourself because you're
That's-
using the word should.
That sounds like Albert Ellis.
Yeah,
So-
I think it probably is.
Who's Albert Ellis? I'm sorry.
REBT.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's basically
We had a-
saying
We had an eye roll on Victoria's part. I might point out on the YouTube channel.
but it's basically saying that, like, with the word should comes a lot of shame and blame and weight carried on your shoulders. And so simply by changing your verbiage to, like, could or would, then you can kind of ease that pressure, ease that weight and blame off your shoulders. And so I'll even say it to my clients, I'm like, you're shooting on yourself again. And, like, is that, like, and I think it kind of goes to what John was saying about people feel like they should have this ambition, but no, like, you probably do. You just need to, like, find it.
Right. Well, unearth it or unbury it
Right.
because it gets buried under the weight.
Go to
of the
therapy or
burdens that
something.
we have. No, Victoria, thank you for that. That is a wonderful teaching moment of really powerful reality because I'm telling you that works a lot. When you change should to could, I learned long ago in a conference, and I really
Or
have
even
used
would.
that
Like, next
many,
time
many
I
times.
would do this, or I
haven't used
would do that.
But you're right. I
you know,
haven't thought of
because
that.
it still leaves up the opportunity for you to make a different, because, like, should also kind of implies that, like, you did something wrong. And sometimes, yes, we do wrong things, but sometimes that's not a weight that we need to carry.
Right.
Like, that's not, we don't need to, it's not our fault. It's
Right.
not something we did wrong. So maybe next time I would do this differently, or I could do this differently.
Yeah.
So
No, I like it. I like it a lot. I think there's a lot there. John, would you be willing to help us understand, staying with the idea of components of ambition, intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic?
Okay. Intrinsic
Intrinsic.
motivation would be the internal engine, basically. Internal, intrinsic. Okay. Extrinsic, of course, is from outside motivation. That might be from parents. That could be from school.
Pleasing people.
Pleasing people. That's a whole nother set of things. In other words,
Conflict avoidance
Cut-
as well.
right.
There's a lot of factors. Yeah, go ahead.
so, and then with the internal is you could should on yourself, basically, and do that. And that would be the negative, but also the intrinsic could also be the very positive aspects of being self-affirming and to being able to say, well, where am I going with this? What's my potential with this? And actually affirm yourself. Be
Right.
positive.
Yeah.
Did I do all right? on
No,
that?
absolutely. I think
I'm
it's
trying to
absolutely on
please
point.
you.
I appreciate that.
I love that. I have not heard that phrase since I graduated
What's that?
college,
What?
graduate school. Intrinsic motivation.
Oh, really?
And
Yeah,
extrinsic
I work with
motivation.
this a lot,
Almost
Victoria.
gonna forget about it. Like,
I pull it back into your brain, I would say, because I think there's a lot to this, and it has a lot to do with internal locus of control versus external.
Yes.
And that's why we should
And that's another thing.
inculcate more intrinsic.
Go
internal
with that.
locus.
And make that sound like people can understand
All right.
it.
Inculcate basically means, in other words, to actually build into the fiber of one's being. The inculcate becomes an essential part of those positive messages that are reaffirming, that are strengthening, that would say you're a person of wonderful worth, and your dreams and your hopes are noble or good. And I'm putting some values into that by saying noble or
Yeah,
good.
I love that.
And the thing is that you could, there's that old hackneyed saw that says you can lead a horse to water and you can't make him drink.
right.
Okay,
I
that
hate
would be
that
an
comment.
pardon.
That's always driven me crazy. I
Yeah.
said, but you can make them thirsty, is what I
Yeah.
like to add to the end of
Well, see, that's an intrinsic.
it. Right?
The thirst
Right.
part, you
The
can make them
thirst.
thirsty, is the intrinsic.
That's the intrinsic.
Right.
Okay. The extrinsic, extrinsic would be you're going to try to motivate them and
Push them from the outside.
push them from the outside. But if they don't want to go, they're not going
not
to.
going.
They're not going.
Yeah.
So
But
you're basically saying if they don't have the intrinsic motivation to do it, then the extrinsic motivation isn't going to be effective.
But you could set the we're
Well, you have to
going
play
on-
with both.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to set the table for the intrinsic as well and give them the opportunity to say, well, wait.
So they bounce
That's
off each other.
They do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vice versa.
But people get really in trouble with this, and then I get excited when Neil goes for the mic.
As I
so
say,
he's got the
notice
mic,
he
so
pulled out his-
that's exciting. But I think the thing you have to realize is you potentially can get into real trouble when you mix them up, meaning you're focused too much on the external locus of control when you really need to take control of what you can control.
Right.
It's serenity prayer in reverse. Your internal locus of control struggles when you're really expecting outside sources to motivate you or to create ambition when it's really an internal, or vice versa. You're not controlling the things you can control when you don't do the internal.
Right.
It just works. Victoria, I think they work together. Neil, what are you thinking, buddy?
Do you think that earlier that someone figures out which one motivates them, the better they are? So basically the idea is, because everyone's different. You know, Elon Musk, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, intrinsic. They have ambition. They just wanted to go do it. But some people do need that out external source. Do you think the sooner they just figure out which one compels to their nature, the sooner they can nurture it and it makes it better for them?
Boy, that's a dynamic question. Seriously,
That's a great
it
question.
really is dynamic. Yeah. What? I almost feel like I need to think about it for a minute. What are you guys thinking, John?
Well, I'm thinking on two levels, and is that one reason why people go in the military is that they have a need for it, external structure and all of that. The beauty is that somewhere down the line, and this is where you make them thirsty, is where the person will say, I can do this. This is something that I want for myself.
Yeah.
And to make it internalize it. There's another illustration that is biblical, and at seminary the word seminal is like a seed, and so that's an internal sense. You can
Plant a seed.
Plant a seed. You can
somebody.
prepare the soil, and the seed has to germinate, and so one starts to develop
And then it
desire, and then it
grows.
grows, and it's very complex, and it grows in its own way, and it becomes a wonderful.
I think what I'm struggling with, though, John, is that Neil. It's a really good question because, to paraphrase it, though, again, you're kind of like, look, wouldn't it be helpful for a person to learn their tendencies, to know kind of what it is that they are motivated from, either internal or external, and then they can mature and grow and get ambitious quicker. Like that's part of the way we want to try to grow ambition. Is that paraphrased kind of close?
I think that kind of paraphrases, but I think going back to nature versus nurture, that statement, the idea is the more you know about your nature, the more you know how to nurture it. And I think that's
that.
key, because I think if someone says, I don't have motivation, you start talking to them, or I don't have ambition, well, you figure out, well, how do you get something done? I think about my kids. My oldest just got to college yesterday, which is really crazy.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we put him
Yay.
in. But I remember seeing it. He's better about setting his schedules with school, and that helps him motivate, get everything done. My youngest is kind of he can kind of do his own thing. He does his own schedule, so they kind of learning what motivates or what pushes them to get to that next step. They've learned, and I feel like if you don't understand that it's internal versus external, or I need deadlines, I need this or I need that, it's hard for you to set that. Maybe Maybe you need deadlines
Yeah.
to do it. But
But there's a problem there.
But if you don't know it soon enough, you're just going to be swimming in the sea and you don't know what you need to do. It's just this wide open thing. So if you don't address or know whether you're intrinsic or extrinsic, however you pronounce that term, it's hard to, how do you build that ambition if you don't know where your strength is, right?
I think you got to have both, though. You start out knowing your strength, but there's an inherent danger there, I feel like, for people. Just take the word people-pleasing, if you will. A lot of people identify, I'm a people pleaser. That means that you have external locus of control and you're extrinsically interested in ambition, motivated by pleasing the other people. And that might be your strength. You read the room, you are compliant, and people love that, and you follow structure, and we need that. We need good foot soldiers, if you will, John.
Right.
But at the same time, you got to turn that around, because we're not going to give you structure throughout life, and so you run a deficit if you don't focus on building the skill up of having that internal locus of control. See, you need both.
Yeah. Well, it's like there's like gravity in the sense that something can't really grow when they take plants up into space or germinate in space. They grow all over the place.
Yeah,
plants do. So you need some resistance.
You need grounded. Okay.
So in other words, you've got So it's a nuance. It's a balance.
Yeah.
There's a sense that maybe you have a little bit of adversity actually helps build one's ambition in some ways.
Well, we're coming to that for
Okay.
sure. We're going to do a section on where's this come from, and I think that we're in the weeds with it. Let me move us on, because I think we'll get there. Because there's a lot of where does
we
this
need
come
to
from?
spray Roundup on things.
Get
Get the weeds.
rid of the weeds. Okay, but real quick, there's another couple components I want to mention, which is important. We spent a lot of time, episode 281, Victoria, right, on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You remember all that? Well, doesn't that drive a lot of the internal ambition for safety, and then the next level up, the structure and the love and the belonging and these different things? Like, that's your ambition. I think that's what I mean by every human being has that.
To at least some degree.
Yes. Well, yeah, I guess your mental acuity there are limitations, but we could still be self-actualized if we were living super well, even when we got some of these deficits, I feel like.
Yeah.
So that's a driving force.
Yeah. Go listen to that episode.
You spent a lot of good time on that episode.
281.
We had some shorts got created for you because you were banging out explanation, teaching us about Maslow. The last part here also, though, is having a growth mindset. I don't know who
That's me.
it is.
Let
but
me take it over.
Carol
Okay.
Dweck evidently is the person who created this concept a long time ago.
Yeah. So growth mindset is basically, so you have a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. So if a fixed mindset, we'll start there, is kind of what it sounds like. You're fixated in one spot. You're not going anywhere. So a thought you could put with that is, I suck at math. I'm always going to suck at math. A fixed mindset. You're never going anywhere. You're fixated right where you're at. Well, then you have a growth mindset, which basically sounds what it is. This concept that you can always grow and learn and further push yourself. So if you take the same comment of, I suck at math, I'm always going to suck at math. If you reword that towards a growth mindset, you could say, okay, well, I suck at math. However, the school provides a tutor for math that I can get with and help improve my math skills. So therefore I can pass my math test on Thursday next week or whatever. So it's that that you have room to grow, that you can change something, that you can move forward and make progress. You're not just fixated in this one specific spot, not moving anywhere.
Which goes to one of the concepts we didn't spend a lot of time on with persistence. I mean, I think honestly, personally, that's one of my strongest traits. I am persistent. If I set a goal, I'm going to figure out a way.
Yeah,
it's
you know how many
happen.
times you ask me a week if I'm done resting? Yeah, you're quite persistent, Chris.
That's consistent. That's not persistent. You're
No,
right.
you're consistent and persistent.
But there is both. You're right. Those that know me would say there are both there. But yeah, that's a good explanation of fixed and growth
Love
mindset.
growth mindset. All my clients, if they're listening to this, they're
Yeah.
gonna know because I talk about it with pretty
Oh,
much
that's your-
everybody.
Is that a staple for you?
Yeah,
Yeah. It's funny how we have different things that we kind of,
like gravitate towards.
or lean on.
I mean, this specifically says the belief that abilities can be developed through hard work and dedication.
Mm-hmm. So that's a big value that you have.
Yes.
So are you trying to impose your values onto the rest of us, on your clients?
Oh, now we square off. Go,
John.
Victoria.
No, I just present it as like this is a thing. Most people have one or two. They have a fixed mindset or they have a growth mindset, and it's up to them to choose what they want.
Excellent.
Are you comfortable with that, John?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I was just pushing her button a little bit there.
Okay.
So-
Let's go into where does this really come from. I think if you think about the conversation thus far is really grasping the concepts and the full understanding of a word that people are drawn to, but really the nuances of how it works. So let's look at where does this come from. That Tale of Two Tapes. Is this more nature nurture? Is this on the nature side, the emotional, social emotional, or that's not the nature side? Is it on the nature side, with the biological genetic kind of realities, or is it on the social emotional, the nurture side? Where does ambitions come from? What do we think?
I think it's both.
Anger,
You said anger, good old anger?
good old fashioned anger.
Now, did you get off the list, or did you get off your brain? She's listed.
Nah, a little half and half. But no, I do think I was actually gonna say more like proving people wrong.
Ooh, that would be.
Would that be more of a people pleaser thing?
That was my 10th grade geometry teacher who said and insulted me in front of a classroom with people,
Yeah.
and I proved her wrong.
that creates ambition? Well,
Or it creates motivation to reach your ambition or
Yeah.
something.
I in my experience is that if people think that there's someone who is close to unconditionally wants the best for them,
Mhm.
they're going to want to excel or do their best and
Yeah.
live up to their potential.
Mhm.
Yeah, but you also have things like self-confidence, self-esteem, which are two different things.
It is. Go ahead, though. You're stopping mid-sentence again.
No, that was it.
Oh, that's it?
They're two different things. Just
How
are
are
we
they?
not listing things here, or do you want me to explain what self-confidence
Please do.
and
Well,
self-esteem is?
I guess I guess that's what we're doing.
Okay.
We're listing areas that this comes from and stuff. And you're
Yeah.
saying that comes from those.
Yeah.
How so? What do you
Well,
mean?
like so self-confidence is your ability to do something. Like you're confident, like I am self-confident in like my ability to, or lack of ability to play basketball, we'll say. Okay. It's an ability. Whereas self-esteem is more like your qualities, your values. Like, do I value myself? Do I am I worth something? That type of thing.
So
I said
okay.
that right? I don't like
think
the
so.
look on your face right now.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
So, anyways, but I think that can spear ambition because, I mean, if I feel better about myself, then I'm gonna feel better about trying to reach said goal, said ambition that I am want to
Right.
achieve. If I believe that I have good qualities and I have good worth and that I can do it, that's probably going to push me a little bit more than if I was
I think the
hiding
key,
away in
I
the
think
corner.
the key here is what motivates you, or as you just said, what pushes you. And there are very different sources that really kind of push you into something that you would like to accomplish and whatnot. So that's really what we're after. And understanding, kind of back to Neil's kind of point, understanding kind of what your strengths are, but understanding what's pushing you are two really important facets of being able to achieve your ambitions.
Right.
How's that for a little bit of a mic drop? Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Because I love
Right
the
there
way
with
that
you.
just came out. I think
Yeah.
that's really on point. I mean, just look at anger, for instance. I mean, you can get really, really pissed off about something. Or, John, when you were talking, I was thinking about athletes that like search for that. You know, you said professor, but they look for a coach or somebody that said something. Like Michael Jordan wasn't picked for his high school basketball team, and it pissed him off, and he would go back to that constantly to feed his ambitions.
Back to that feeling of what he felt during that.
Yes, and it
time,
was
yeah.
very motivating for him to achieve his ambitions. So, you know, the Boston Tea Party, the whole creation of these United States, based on a whole lot of anger about taxation without representation. Mothers against drunk drivers. They are literally having the acronym
They're mad.
MAD.
Yeah.
You know, that creates ambition because my freaking son died from a drunk driver and I want to change this,
Yeah.
right? So your ambitions really do what's driving you? What's your passion? What feeds your passion is another word, your passions and ambitions. So that's what
Right.
we're trying to figure out.
So then, like, your values and interest can push what, like,
Another topic.
yeah.
Okay.
Like how if I, like, if an interest of mine, okay, like reading.
Trying to create this. Oh my
Yeah.
God. She
like
has
reading
an
is an interest
in
of reading. And so technically I do have a goal of like to read 150 books by the end of the year.
Oh my
I'm already
gosh.
on like almost on like 140. So I'm almost there.
That is a lot.
But like, and then my dad made a comment the other day about, he was like, do you have any other goals for the year? And I was like, yes, but like, this is something that like is an interest of mine. So like, yeah, I'm going to put forth effort into accomplishing like the thing that I want to accomplish because like, it's something that makes me feel good. It's something that like relaxes me. I read for plenty of different reasons. And like
Absolutely.
that's,
And values. Go ahead, John.
Well, I'm from southeastern Kentucky originally.
I'm so
and-
sorry.
Well, that's no
West
that's-
Virginia wins,
was-
man.
Yeah,
We always win.
or I mean, at least you grew up with some good bourbon.
right.
This is true.
Right.
Hatfields, though, were your nemesis.
I
Sorry,
had this
I love
brilliant
Kentucky,
point.
buddy. I love Kentucky,
Okay.
brother.
I do too. And I love my people. And one of which is that there's generational poverty that's there and it's same in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Same in certain areas of
I'm from here.
You're from here, southwestern Virginia, Appalachia.
Appalachia.
Okay.
Southern Ohio.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about J.D. Vance,
Right.
and now he's the vice president. Whether a
Is he?
candidate, no, he's a candidate, but but there was this sense of what set him apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he had an internal locus of control where he was living in a world that would actually be very much an external locus of control. His mother, for example, kept going back to the wrong men, kept going back to drugs, and having relapses. And then there was something in him that motivated him. My goal, and I think your goal as therapist, is to be able to give hope, to
Right.
say that there's an opportunity, there's education, there's a way out of the determinism of generational poverty, for example,
Right.
or drugs.
And I'm thinking about, you're making me think, John, about, substance abuse families and what happens to the ambitions of people oftentimes in those systems. Could be good, but it could be bad.
Yeah. So how does one nurture that, nourish that, so that in an impossible situation that one could actually excel and grow and go outside of basically what seemed like a pretty hopeless situation,
Yeah.
and do that. I think so. There's a balance. So
I think there's a
anyway.
great balance. I love this in looking at the depths of what it is that we do, because I think that we're on the front lines of helping people through to unleash their ambitions. I was thinking about that, John, as you were talking. My mind was in a journey of like, is that what we are trying to do? But there's a cautionary tale, I think, also, because at the same time we're trying to help people with the different things that hold their ambitions down so they can unleash their ambitions. But what happens when we get, these tough life experiences through trauma and pain and
Well-
hurt and substance abuse, where we have, ambitions that take us into a destructive zone?
Yeah, you see that in our. You read so much, but Citizen Kane, for example, that
Yeah.
great film. He's on his deathbed. Charles Foster Kane. He was a newspaper magnate, and he pulled the strings of politics, and he basically didn't have any. He had a great fortune. He had everything the world at his fingertips,
Okay.
and he lost. He died,
Oh, okay.
and he had this one little snow globe, and he said Rosebud, and it was the only thing that he valued in his life was his sled that he had. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is that's an ambition that's gone bad, because he ran over people, he destroyed people's lives, he used people, and the only thing that he only really wanted was to have his sled that was taken away from him.
So the answer to our question, can you have too much,
Yes.
is definitely
Yeah,
yes.
that was my point.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I
long
like
way
that. You
getting
know what?
to it.
Let's pull these two sections together, because absolutely any of these things can go bad. Anger can go bad. We know angry people, right? Hurts and pain points can really keep us down and stifle our motivation and ambition and such. You go down through these things, family supports and the culture that you had, you can have too much of that stifles, actually. So
Well-
too much is bad, but what we want to do is harness the anger,
Right.
harness the trauma, harness what you learned. I tell people all the time in substance abuse families, man, the things that you learned in those systems kept you alive. We don't want to retrain those things. Those are amazing skills.
Yeah.
Powerful skills. Street smarts are amazing, right? But when you have too much of the pain, then it hurts you into negative world.
Well, yeah, and I also think when too much ambition comes into play is when you don't how to. Oh God, I can't talk today. When you don't how to moderate it, I guess is the right word. Where you
Harness, manage,
where
moderate.
you run yourself ragged, because, and I'm sure we've all had clients who are have done that because they don't know how to regulate.
Might be guilty sometimes myself.
Yeah, I might be guilty sometimes myself too. But because they don't know how to regulate. Okay, when do I haven't eaten in 5 days because I've been so pushing to try to reach this goal.
Right.
Okay, well maybe I need to put some food inside my body,
Yeah.
or
Take care of yourself
drink
as
some
well.
water, or get some sleep.
Over ambition. Yeah.
Right. And so-
Overachiever. Achieving
yeah.
high goals.
So
are great.
So
Yeah.
you're talking not just like something that would be diagnosable in terms of a mood disorder, bipolar.
Right.
You're talking about just having this almost this ambition, that great ambition, that vision that it would actually be detrimental for your health,
Right.
and so everything gets put by the wayside.
Yeah, so you might be accomplishing something big, but at what cost?
You're overcompensating.
Don't try too hard. Settle down. Relax. Yeah. These are some of the... Yeah, there's a lot of things that I don't know about y'all, but when I'm working with people and thinking about these things, it's balance. We want balance.
Yeah.
All
So-
things
It's a
in
const-
moderation.
all
it's a
things in
constant balance.
Yeah, right. A couple of the other things, trauma experience, I think we mentioned. A big one I really want to focus on for a minute. And I want to get to, how can we foster this stuff though? But failures or
Oh, yeah.
significant challenges in your face, are these good for ambition or are they bad? Because I happen to love them.
I think, again, when we go back to what we just talked about with harnessing and regulating,
Yeah.
I think it can be a good thing.
Springboards into growth mindset when
Right.
you fail. Yeah. But you can get stuck in failure and just stay,
Well, and it depends also if somebody is, let's say, they don't have your best
Interest?
interest in mind. Thank you.
You're okay.
They basically what they do is that they try to thwart you and keep you down.
Or
And
take
so-
advantage
or
of you.
think
So when you have
that-
people working against you,
yeah, and
purposefully,
you
you
fail,
have to be aware of
and
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
I've-
you,
Like
I see
someone
that.
like holding you down.
Yeah, stifling you. Domestic violence is a more extreme example
no
of
one
that,
will
but-
want you.
Right.
Right.
Those critical people.
You're
in
too
our
broken.
lives.
You're too damaged.
Critical people really hurt, don't they?
Yeah.
And you know who
They're
some of the
brutal.
most critical people are?
Unfortunately.
Kids.
Yeah.
Kids are mean.
Yeah.
Well, they
But they usually learn it from somewhere. So there's
You know where
that.
I thought you were going?
Where?
Parents.
Oh yeah, parents are too.
Right? Oh, I
Of
think some
themselves
the
and of
times-
their kids.
I think some of the times I crush my kid's spirit inadvertently. I mean, obviously I didn't mean
Yeah, you
to.
don't
It's
mean
just
to.
like, oh, why did I say that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but it happens.
Yeah.
And they can take that criticism and use it to motivate them, as we're been talking about. All right, high achievers with ADHD, maybe anxiety, or even, as we said, Asperger's syndrome, John. These types of things, being a high achiever, are great. We don't want overachievers with that balance, but these high achiever motivations like anxiety, oh man, that can create some wonderful ambition.
Well, yeah, and I was thinking about how we were talking about like not just my ADHD, but just ADHD in general earlier. How if there's like a correlation between if it like affects, I also think it can do the opposite because we can get so hyper focused on things that sometimes it can help us to like drive and reach our
Okay,
like
here's what we
accomplishment
want to avoid.
or ambition.
Because in a word, we can't have too much ambition. And then we want to talk about how to cultivate it. We can have too much, and we use other words. I was brainstorming this, right? Think of these other words that we have when we're thinking about people that are too ambitious, air quotes, right? Haughty, arrogance, behavior, condescension. Oh, those condescending people, right?
I'm too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of me.
Oh, man.
I'm just like heaven to touch. I want to hold me so much.
That would be a little haughty.
Haughty, yes.
Toxicity, workaholics, overachievers, burnt out folks, compassion fatigue is what we say in our field.
Oh, and that's how we let ourselves off the hook as therapists.
Right.
We call it compassion fatigue.
Well, yeah, I've got.
Poor, yeah, well, that's what
Poor
you're saying.
me.
Rationalization there, John. Yeah, but then we disconnect and we have poor relationships. I wrote lot lizard or other terms that are kind of derogatory and whatnot. The reason why I was thinking about that is because my son was called a lot lizard, and what that is a person who at a car dealership or a used car salesman or whatever, they're very competitive. And so my son was like hungry and ready to go, and he wanted to get into sales. And so somebody would jump on the lot, and boom, he's like jumping on him,
Yeah.
So he was Nick Dibbs.
I was called a power tourist once.
a
but-
power tourist.
Yeah, because I like to power through museums and see everything.
Okay.
But you
Yeah.
go quickly. You don't take your time.
No, I don't take my time. So,
Right. So there's these critical things. And so definitely we want to build ambition. Now we're going to answer the questions, how do we deal with that? But, we want to be careful to have a balance and not go overboard because we'll be,
Right.
These other not so nice.
Keep yourself
words.
accountable.
So how do we cultivate this? What do you think? What do we do? Do you actively do this in therapy with people again?
yes, I do.
Yes.
I think so too.
Yeah. Well, how else are you going to be effective?
Well, but have you thought about the actual word ambition in
Yeah, I don't think I actually when we first started this episode, I was kind of thinking like I don't necessarily use the word ambition too often, but we use the words goal setting, motivation,
That's
those
my point.
words.
Right.
Like we use those words, but we don't necessarily, at least for me personally.
So ambition
like-
almost has a little value.
Ooh,
Spin on it.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does. Go with that because I think
Yeah, and I think, like in my circles, you can't be too ambitious. I mean, ambitious is not a good thing. I come from a ministerial association, and we put people down by calling them big steeple preachers.
Oh,
Okay,
that's a
And those are
slammer.
the two ambitious people.
And then I had a big steeple guy talk to me and said, "Well, you're really not made for the big steeple,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did he mean
I
by that?
I wanted to bloody his nose. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
wondering how John was taking that.
I didn't take that one very well.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, John can get it on when he needs
And
to get going.
I'm doing this for Jesus.
Right.
You know?
So what better ambition or stronger ambition? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was critical, and that
It was
stings.
critical. Yeah,
Those
it
things can
stings,
sting.
yeah.
And honestly, if you have that self-confidence, the internal locus of control, see how these things work together?
Yeah.
You can take that motivation and be a big steeple preacher if you want to
But
be, right?
But the thing is that we in some circles, that's not being pious. Is
Right.
to be ambitious. Is not to be pious. And
Yeah. Go ahead.
So
Victoria.
like, well, I was just like one of the things you talk about as far as like cultivating it is the 1, 5, and 10-year plan.
Love that.
So
Absolutely.
kind of like a vision board type thing, whatever. Some people are
do
more. Words are hard for me today.
I see that.
Just like every day in my life, apparently.
you
but
speak so quickly that
I
your,
do.
your
My
thoughts
brain-
get ahead.
yeah, my brain works faster than my mouth.
I wish that were
But-
my problem.
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
and I talk with clients about this all the time, like having a 1, 5, and 10-year plan.
So you do that now. Do you
Yeah,
like
I
the
do.
10 instead of the 5 being the max? Because that's my
Yeah,
big
because I
time
think
bias.
I think it gives people more
Good,
of
good.
like one time, because like some people's goals that they set for themselves are good goals. They just like are physically not possible to achieve, and like right now,
You need some
wanted
time.
if I wanted to say I want to be a doctor in 5 years, that's literally not possible.
Mhm.
Like a medical doctor, I could be other doctor.
You could
and
be a doctor,
I could
yeah.
be a doctor in less than 5 years. But if I wanted to be like a medical doctor in 5 years, that's
But you think about it, you actually have as much or more education in terms
right.
of the,
But
Yeah,
I'm
but
just
the
saying.
point
But I'm
is-
just saying. The
I
point
got it.
is like I think it also helps people realistically set goals that they can actually like accomplish and maintain.
A lot of content creators or thought leaders really go about, identifying vision boards and having your vision. It's well known in business manuals and books and leadership conferences and all. But
I
these
have
are
a-
really, really poignant things. Is why.
organically, I think more of like a 7-year, a 3 and a 5, and a 1, a 3 and 5, and a 7 years
Yeah.
is more of an organic one in terms of seasons
And breaking things up.
days. Yeah.
Uh,
So
Casey.
Yep.
Casey Morgan.
Our friend Casey.
Shout out Casey Morgan.
hey, Casey.
When we worked for our previous employer, she had us create vision boards for what we want to accomplish during the summer, because we did school-based therapy, and during the summers things slack off a little bit because obviously the
A
kids aren't in
lot.
school. It's hard to meet with people go on vacation, blah blah blah. But anyways, so she wanted us to create vision boards. So we all we got our poster boards. We
Did it.
got letters. We printed out photos. We labeled
It fosters
things.
ambition as
But,
a team.
yeah, it actually got me thinking more. Like I was able to also get ideas from what other people suggested and talked about, and
There are people that struggle with having way too much of a focus on external locus of control. And when you're kind of going with the wind, it's good for flexibility. It's good for patience. Those are strengths. But what you do potentially is get lost because you don't have the answer to the question, what do you want in life? What are you really striving for?
Well, now here's a thought, and that is to go over, like in terms of going over the client's goals, and you do this on a regular basis, and you do
Day
it
one.
day one, and maybe I don't know what you guys do. I think you need at least a couple of months, 3 months to say, okay, are we going in the right direction? Do we need to look at a different way?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Reevaluate. where we're at.
Reevaluate and reappraise, and
Good,
then
I think good therapists do that.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
that's. So I think not being so diffuse and just saying, okay, I'm going to see. I'll go this way or I go that way. You have to have some sort of a plan. So
Have to have a vision.
Vision.
Have to have a plan. have to have a destination. These are things that feed what it is that your ambition is. I like to say cornerstone of mental health. That's what I think self-care is. So, focusing on the process that you're in and not the outcomes. And if you're not resting, you have got to rest and do self-care and recharge and re-engage what it is that your ambition is. That's how you feed it.
That's what I do with my supervisees.
Yeah.
I think self-care is absolutely wonderful.
Numero uno.
I had a
Numero
session
uno.
just yesterday where I had to spend about 15 minutes trying to get a committed answer about what it is this person was going to do for self-care this evening, and they really needed it.
Uh-huh.
So seriously,
I
will
talk about
spend
self care
time there, boy.
almost every session, regardless of
spend
who my
time
client
there.
is. It probably comes up at least once every
Yeah,
session.
It's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big
Even if
deal.
it's just a quick check in of like, okay, how you doing with your self care? Okay, great.
Okay, another thing that I thought was cool is from the book that I wrote, Through a Therapist's Eyes, Re-Understanding Emotions and Becoming Your Best Self, right? What?
Sorry.
Did I say something wrong?
No, I was looking at this abbreviation like the
Tate.
whole time, and I was like, "What
That's
the
the
F
Tate.
is that?" I was like, "What the heck is
Tate
that?"
Museum.
Okay, come back to
I'm
us. Come back to us,
sorry.
Victoria. I lost the
Major
battle with Neil and co-host long ago. We now refer to it as Tate.
Okay,
I've
that's
never
fine.
liked it, but
Now I'm
Neil's
on board.
smiling in his victory as we speak. But no, what I did in that book, right, is I took all of the chapters
Okay.
and I whittled them down to kind of group them off, and I had 4 groups of things, and most of the chapters fit into one of those 4 groups. So to me, it's like a synthesized version of these are the 4 important pieces that you want to really engage to reinvent yourself, to build yourself up emotionally, to manage and re-understand how you can function. And action points was one of those 4. Like, what actions can you take? Can we not say that the actions you choose to take should be feeding and getting more excited about what your ambitions are?
Well, yeah, they need to correlate somehow.
Right? But I think I'm excited about that because I feel like people oftentimes sit back and wait and fail to exercise the control over what it is, the courage to control what they do control. Like
yeah.
this phrase, John, it is what it is, drives me nuts for that very reason, right? So what actions can you take? Any action at all. If you allow yourself to think,
Well,
what
that's
can
a
I do?
fatalism.
It'll come.
Yeah. So, in other words, that's something that I challenge my clients on is when they say it is what it is. That seems to be, say, I'm helpless, I'm hopeless,
Right.
I don't have the agency to be able to do this. And
I
I'm
don't have
saying,
empowerment.
dude, dig deep into yourself a little bit. You can dig in there. You might be afraid to see what is there. You might not know your potential, and
Right.
to be able to
Love
just,
it.
okay,
Love
just
it.
go for it.
Love it.
Yeah.
This is an important part of functioning, and people really are afraid, to take an action. I mean, now we have cancel culture around the world. This isn't just in the States, by the way, people. That's all around the world, and it has to do with putting stuff out on a screen. But people are afraid to do that face to face.
Afraid to be criticized, or to even have their careers jeopardized
Right.
by cancel
It's scary.
culture. What's happened to comedy, for example? You can't be funny anymore.
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny. I like Rogan's show with certain science people and all. And he said, yeah, we just kept on doing it. So I guess there's certain pockets.
There are
Right,
pockets.
yeah.
But
all right.
you're not going to get that on Jimmy Fallon, for example. Not Fallon, but who's Kimmel? Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, he's afraid to say anything.
Yeah.
Building self-confidence, Victoria. I think you were talking about that.
Yeah.
Writing out your values and your ethical beliefs, just like a vision board. It's really important to actually write them out so that you know what are my values, what are my ethics.
I give out
think
like
a lot of people
I give
don't
out a list
realize it.
sometimes and like challenge people to
to actually identify
yes.
ethics and value. Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
In other words, they write their own code of ethics.
Yeah. And basically what I do is I sometimes depending on the person, I do an activity where like I tell them to pick a certain number. like circle a certain number. And then of that, I tell them to pick a smaller number. And then eventually we get to 1, which for them is like their core, like the one thing that like reigns above all as far as like.
Oh, I like that.
That's a good activity.
Yeah.
You do that in
gonna
sessions?
So they might
I'm
pick
gonna
like
steal that from
they
you.
might pick like 10 of their top 10 out of the whole list.
Okay.
Then I might ask them to pick 5 of that 10,
Right.
which are their top 5,
It
and
whittles
then like
down
3,
the subconsciousness into like
and
this
then
is
1,
really
and then
it.
like this is really where my like. If I didn't have this one thing, I would not be who I am today, or kind of thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
I actually just saw an icebreaker at a conference I was at yesterday on the same theme, and it was power. Like,
Yeah.
it made people cry. It was like, wow. Anyway, but
Okay,
that's
can I
yes.
ask? I know we're
No.
getting close to the
I'm
Yes.
end, but you said embrace failures. The best teacher I've ever had has been my failures.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't think of
Same.
that back at you used the example of SpaceX, and I would
Yes.
like to contrast that with Boeing, for
Oh,
example,
okay.
with their Starliner.
Go for it.
What happened is Elon Musk, every time he did his SpaceX, he probably failed more than he succeeded, but once he started to succeed, it happened a lot more often. Boeing was afraid to fail. You cannot have any mistakes or anything like that.
Wow.
They can't get, for example, the Starliner. They couldn't get it off the ground for 3 years once they got it up there because they had
Wow.
over-engineered it, overthought it, didn't take risk, and boom.
Instead of allowing
It-
themselves
yeah.
to fail.
And instead of
It's
you
stagnant.
learn from your mistakes. And so we have 2 astronauts that have been up there for 2 months
Yeah.
that can't come home.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Right. I saw where you're going with this, and you're absolutely on point. I love this a lot, John, because, you do learn from failure, and, the SpaceX people will tell you, look, we know we're going to lose rockets. We know we're going to explosions. We bank on that because we learn so much from it with all the data that we get, and then we refine it and retune it and go at it. And you're right. Unfortunately, Starliner with Boeing just is arrested in their development.
But I also think that failure allows you to. This might be just repeating what you say, but in the sense of like when you work on yourself, failure allows you to see like where you're at. And so like, okay, for example, at the gym I go to, we go until failure. So like if I'm doing like chest press, then I will go until I literally cannot pick the weight up off my chest, because then I know where I'm at and then I can improve from
fatigue,
there.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. We just had a YouTube quote that agrees with us. Like, people are so afraid of failure. Yeah, I mean, it is something that will stop you before you start if you allow fear to go at it. But again, action points, learn from failures. These are things that can build your self-esteem up, actually, and then foster your ambition.
Yep.
I don't like to fail, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
fail so often.
I hate
Well,
it.
sometimes you don't know how far you make it until you fail,
Listen,
and then you can
when
push
you're
yourself
lifting
even
weights,
more.
you and I are working out, Victoria,
Yeah.
right? You have to go to failure to
Yeah.
know how far you go, and then the next time
You try to do
15
one more.
reps
Yeah.
instead of the exactly
14 and then 16 instead of the 15, or you lift 35 pounds instead of 30 pounds.
You know,
or
it's funny.
You
Every
know-
time I go to the elliptical, I've made a bargain with myself that I've got to go 0.01 further every
Yeah.
single week. It's starting
Yeah.
to get hard.
Yeah, no, I think that's great though.
Getting difficult.
I'm going to see a bunch of ripped
But then it's
people
okay
in here
but
now.
sometimes then it's okay if you stay at the same one for a while until you
That's good
get
too.
the
Yeah,
strength
that's
to
good
go
too.
on to the
Yeah,
next
the only
one.
one that's going to be ripped are Victoria and Neil, John. I think
Yeah.
we've lost the ability. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Let's
Should
go,
I just
Neil.
speak for myself?
Yes.
Okay, just speak for myself. Listen.
Anyways.
Actively choose role models, resolving failure or resolving family and resolving traumatic kind of things. We'll talk more about these things as we go. But closing thoughts, guys, and I'll take us out of here.
No, I mean, just go for it. Do it. You got it. You
Have
got
grace
this.
for yourself.
Yes.
So
Give yourself some
just
grace.
Give yourself some grace and just keep at it. Keep trying. And
You got this, dude.
I love that. So listen, yeah, this is a really cool topic that I think will apply to everyone if you tuned in. I hope that we've given you some things because there's really a lot that can knock you down. There's really a lot in the world that can stress you out. There's really a lot that can make you afraid, anxious, depressed, and these things erode away at what it is that you do have ambitions for. As they get buried, you forget them. Gain an awareness of yourself, create some vision, and do some of these activities just a little bit at a time. And I think that you'll find you really free yourself up to explode into what it is that you want to make happen. So we're along for the journey with you. As I always say, we'll figure it out together. Take care till next week. We'll see you soon.